The image and the style that you're used to.
All right. Katie has got a new pin today from a friend of ours, a fellow collector that she has worked a deal with. It's a machine she's been looking for a long time. I met the delivery guy down here earlier today, and he dropped it off to the arcade. And we're coming back tonight to put the legs on it. And Katie has not seen this before, so this is going to be a little bit of an unveil to her. She's not here yet, so we're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek here. Let's go inside. There we go. Everybody knows what that is. 1994 World Cup Soccer. The machine that Katie has been looking for a long time. Got to be the right machine, got to be the right deal. So when I say looking, it's not like they're not out there, but you know, anybody can just pop out there and just look for a machine and buy the first one they find. But it's more like buying a car at this point. You kind of, you know, look for the one that you're liking. You know, kind of, and the person you're buying from is a huge part of that process. So. Yeah, this would be pretty awesome. It's the way they usually come, wrapped in plastic like this. Keep them together. They're hinged at the bottom. You can see that on the funhouse here. They've a little black arm back here that kind of, you don't really see it until start collecting games and start wondering how all this stuff works. But yeah, that little tiny arm back there pivots on that little bolt. Then the whole head, the top of the pinball machine, pivots down that way. So, yeah, we've been collecting games our whole lives, obviously. We're gamers, right? So, but about 3 years ago, we bought our first pinball machine, and then that's when the education with this started. Before that, we really didn't know much about how to take the legs off and what to do. So there's a couple of different ways to do this, and I'll talk to her about how she wants to do it. Some of it, you know, requires brute strength. Some of it is smarter, not harder. So some of it's just a mix of both. Depends when Katie gets here, and we'll get this thing going. Be right back. So what we did yesterday was we came in and like I said, we came up with the group plan about what we were going to do. And since we had 3 people, which was nice, that's a luxury we don't usually have. And we've got a nice wooden table. That's a rectangle. It's kind of a skinny, longer rectangle. So we put that in the middle of the room. All 3 of us picked it up and got it up on the table where the edges were hanging off, and we bolted the legs on it. 2 of us picked it up. John and I picked it up. Katie slid the table out, and on the ground we went. So I'll run you through kind of what we did yesterday. Once we got the legs on and kind of started going through it, you know, you gotta lift the head up, take the back glass out. That's where the lockdown bolts are for the head, so it doesn't want to hinge down. So you gotta open that. You gotta get in there. While you're in there, you kind of take a look at the connectors and see if anything got bumped out of place. After that, it's once you double checked everything, it's let's plug it in and turn it on, and we did that yesterday. So I'll show you a little bit of gameplay, and I'll kind of run you through like some of the tools we used cleaning it up, and tell you maybe a little bit more details about what we did as we go back and look at some of these tools here. All right, so let's walk over here to our table here, and so here's what we did. We took a look at the playfield, gave it a little waxing, little cleaning. All the balls that were in, all 5 were in it. They were in a little bag in there, like I said, the little goodie bag. So we put a little wax on the balls. Gotta wax the balls. Buffed them out with the cloth, and they look they're great. They're gorgeous. Didn't have a lock, so we had 1 more lock out of our set of 5 matching locks from Marco. So we pulled out the last lock. Here's the instruction cards that came with it. I've already got replacement instruction cards coming for them, so get rid of these discolored cards. We'll hold on to these and put them in a bag. Obviously, you keep everything, but there's some really cool cards that are out there, and we've even thought of making some unique cards for the shop here. The pliers. To get the lock in, it's got a really flat little skinny nut that it's hard to reach with a standard wrench, so we use that to get in there and cinch down the lock. The toothbrush is for these little posts. It's that the little white that's on there. That it's just a little bit of wax that dried and didn't get taken away. So since we had the back glass off, or the playfield glass, and we were gonna go through it anyway, we figured just grab the toothbrush. And it's just those, these 4 that are in the front, right? These are the ones that are gonna drive you crazy. It's gonna be this one right here that's in the front of that plastic, and it's gonna be this guy right here. And you're gonna look at those when you stand here, so that just drives you crazy. And most pinball machines have that. So, here it is. You just stand here and look at these little white marks that are here. So, so we grabbed the toothbrush and we got rid of some of that. Here is the latch that goes on the back. Old school pinball machines, they've had them for a long time. Here is the lockdown bolt for the back box. That's a really cool thing. I don't know if I personally have ever seen one of those before. Usually it's just like a bolt with a washer on it. So that's really neat. I think that must have been something that just, I've got machines that are newer than that don't have those bolts. So I don't know if it was something that they did, and older. So I don't know if it's something that they did, for a little chunk of time, or if it was that machine, or maybe a lot of times original stuff just kind of gets tossed and lost. So maybe that was the case with the stuff that I had. Maybe they just kind of got tossed and lost. So, all right, well, let's check out this bad boy here. See how we came out. So this is it in its full glory. It's really pretty. These machines that were made into the 90s have decals versus having painted on side art. So you actually will see a little bit of wrinkling at times around the legs, with the legs push into the wood. That's really standard. It's almost impossible. And any damage that's on the head is just from it being pushed in and out of a row in an arcade. So this isn't a machine I've done a lot of research on, so I personally don't know. Every machine's got a lot of quirky little fun things about how it works that are unique to that. And once you own one for a while, you kind of figure some of that stuff out. One of the things I actually did hear about when I looked at the side art that they were reproducing is this sticker right here. This isn't in the side art. That's an external sticker that's like put on the outside. And when they reproduced the side art, when you buy new decals for it, the decal set, it comes with those stickers. And that's how I found out that they were a loose thing. I saw them listed in the contents, and I was like, why does it have extra stickers in it? So that's why. Those stickers were put on there, because it was a licensed product. So this is just gorgeous. The Translite is amazing. So Translite versus painted back glass. It's art that's printed on like a white translucent plastic, so the light comes through it. And that's standard for the later model pinball machines, like Funhouse and Star Trek and some of these others. They all have translights like that. Another really unique thing to this game is that it has special art for the speaker cover. Dude, how cool is that? Look at this. It's got like a little cat on it. A little cat in there. Meow. Yeah, I thought that was hella cool. So we're still doing a little bit of research. I think, this is after doing like little to no research, I think the soccer doggy, I think his name is Striker. I think that's what's going on there. And the announcer, I know I'm wrong, but the announcer sounds like the announcer from NBA Fast Break. I mean, he's got the soccer like goal, you know what I mean? But like he's got that same enthusiasm, and every time I hear it, I always think NBA Fast Break. So, side of the cabinet looks amazing. There's always certain colors that fade. Here, I'll give you an example. Here's my Funhouse. See the orange and the yellow? Very definite color difference between the orange and the yellow. And there's a little bit more in the dark over here, but look at this. Almost no definition between the orange and the yellow. That was the side that was towards the window when this was out in the wild. You can just tell which direction it was facing. So, like most collectors and arcade people, you find the good side and you put it out. So stuff like this is also really common, the scratches and stuff. So, but these are just laminates, you know. If you want it to look okay again, you just put another sticker on it. Excuse me. Let's take a look at the playfield. So the playfield on this is amazing. It's just gorgeous. Like a lot of pinball machines get a lot of wear right here around the flippers if they're not aligned properly. They're gonna drag on the playfield. This is also something that was unique, and I hadn't seen it before. I don't know if this is special. I don't know if this is this machine, but this hardware is like a gold color. This is even harder to see, but the ramp is gold, or like a goldy color to it. It's not like the ramp in the funhouse. Look at this. It's like very definitely chrome, right? This is very definitely like a yellow color. You see it? Almost easier to see it back here. That's super cool. So I don't know if that was like a thing. These lights that are right here, these little domed yellow lights, look almost exactly like the prototype lights that were on the top of the guns for the Star Trek Next Generation when they first talked about it. And the apron, really cool. I love the games that have a really unique apron. This metal part right here. But this is really cool, especially that it's a MagnaSave game. And that means that if you look down here, it's got two buttons. And they're not both flipper buttons. The yellow button is the flipper button. This side has one. The yellow button is the flipper button. The yellow, I say they're both yellow. The yellower of the two, the more orangey, is actually turns on a magnet that is what it's right here. And what it's supposed to do, it's like in that little spot right there where that guy's hand is. It's underneath the wood. It's an electromagnet, and when it activates, it grabs that ball and pulls it back towards that spot. And I guess this is a mastered skill on this thing that you kind of have to figure out, is that if you hold up this left flipper, and when the ball's trying to get away from you and go down the drain, you can actually press that MagnaSave button, and it will literally pull it back out of the hole, back out of the drain, and if you have that flipper up, it'll kind of park it there for you. So, really excited to check that out. I think that's just going to be awesome. Really cool. So it did have a lockdown bar at one point. This is something we always look for, and it's not a big deal with these machines necessarily because the decals, cover everything up if you end up buying a new decal for it. But when it was out in the wild, it did have out in the wild. I mean, like at an arcade, out where people could, normal people walk up and put money in it and play it. Customers. It had a bar across here from this hole just to the right of the lock that's filled in over here to that hole right there, and it went across there because this actual coin door lock was deemed not enough security. That was actually the reason. So, and they're really not. I mean, that's the same lock that's on. This is just a regular key, like for a canopy for like a S10, right? So, all right, I'll show you inside the coin door, since we got the key right here in front of us. This is standard Williams coin door with these standard 4 buttons. Oops, I kicked my initial D here. That adjust all the settings that are in the game. How much things cost, the language, how many balls you get, erasing the high scores. And on this game, similar to the NBA Fast Break, there's a tournament mode. I don't know what that means in this. Inside of the NBA Fast Break, it allows customers to walk up, put in an additional quarter, so 75 cents versus the traditional 50 cents. You hold down the flippers before you put in the money. It says, okay, you're going to play tournament mode and put in 75 cents. You put in your 75 cents, it starts, and then it records your score. At the end of playing, you put in a 4-digit pin that belongs just to you if you've got a high score, so that if there's 4 people with the same name, you know, they can identify at the end of the tournament which one you are, because you have your matching pin to your name. And the tournament can run from X amount of days to X amount of days. It can run for a month, whatever. You just set a beginning date and an end date. And at the end of the tournament time, when you set the end date, when that comes up, it just tells you, here's the person that got the highest score. Here's the person that got the second highest score out of, you know, everybody that played it, that paid that extra quarter to play in the tournament. And it may be that they win, you know, a color TV back in the day or whatever it was, you know. So, and you can put that on the display. You can say, hey, play tournament mode to win a color TV. For any questions, talk to so-and-so. So really cool. So, I mean, that being said, since I've had Fast Break long enough to do a little bit of that research and saw it in the menu and was like, oh my God, what is that? I gotta know about it. But we saw it in the menu on this. All right, let's go check this guy out. We got them all turned on. Even the coin door lights work. Plus, look at that. Dude, yeah, John and Katie were really excited. They did some hard work last night getting this thing all going. Yeah, this thing's a gem. Love when they did the programming for these games. They were really specific about how all these patterns moved. You know, they put in some really ingenious patterns. So let me set up the camera. We'll play a couple of games and listen to some of the amazing sounds that come out of this thing. It's just ridiculous. So pretty. And the shine off the playfield. I mean, that's half of the attraction to a pinball machine to me, is like when it just pops, you know what I mean? Tried for the Magnus save, and I think I was a bit too late. You can continue with the extra ball similar to Star Trek. That's super cool. This has been really fun. Yesterday's pickup was cool. Delivery went well. The moving went well. That's always the worst part of the equation. Once it gets moved to where it's going to be and you've got the legs on it and you're just muscling it into a row, that's fine. But the truck and the straps and the plastic, and it's like collecting refrigerators. Every time we do this, we talk personally about how much easier it must be to be a stamp collector. And just, you're going to go to a convention, you put your stuff in your bag and you go. And this, it's its own project. It's got to be 50% of owning arcade games and pinball machines is thinking about having to move them, even if it's just a couple of feet. It's so different than picking up a Nintendo and just walking into the other room with it. So from a collecting standpoint, they take up a ton of room. They're terrible to move. But once you get them where they're going to go, they have a presence like nothing else. You know, like in the 70s when you made it big, you got your first album, you know, came out and got crazy. You put out that first movie everybody went nuts about, and you're a celebrity. The first thing you do is buy a pinball machine. It's almost impossible to find a picture of a celebrity from the 70s that had that rock star-esque presentation going on that did not have a pinball machine. There's just something about walking into somebody's house, specifically somebody's house, and seeing a pinball machine. It's like, oh my God, you have a pinball machine in your house? It was like watching Silver Spoons, you know? It was like, he's got games in his house? He rides around on a train? What is this? Like, why is this not me? I'm Senzo Pinball. If you like the content, hit like and subscribe. Babes in Pinland and myself are both on Twitch. So if you want to see some PC games streamed, if there's a game that you saw here that you want to know more about, if you're new to arcade game collecting, pinball collecting, play pinball, want to buy your first machine, got any questions, leave them in the comments below. I will be absolutely happy to answer any questions. The big one that comes up a lot of times people ask about is price. And that's something a lot of people are curious about. Some people don't want to share it. The prices are out there for most of these games, and they range in a very small window. So this game will be worth this. If you do some research, you'll find out what these games are worth if you're looking for a specific game. And there's also a lot of forums and Facebook pages that are out there that'll help you too. Hey, I found this game in my neighborhood. This guy's got this pinball machine. He's asking this much for it. It's in this condition. Is that a good deal? You know, and you'll get some feedback. But if you've got some questions for me, let me know. I may not divulge to you, you know, a specific dollar value of what we paid for something, but I'll give you an idea of what something's worth and kind of how that works. So I'm Senzo Pinball. Play more games. I'll see you soon.
When the image and the style that you're used to.